Hey everybody, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you so much for joining me once again for tea time. Today we have a little bit of misty morning and focus combination because you know I like that zing and that bergamot. It's just so good in the morning. So guys, I thank you for being here, hanging out, hopefully having your coffee, maybe a little bit of tea, maybe a little rum. Maybe it's late over there. I don't know. Here it's early in the morning, Monday morning, actually. So today we're going to be talking about Canon and Sony and looking at them both as, let's call them mirrorless makers, full frame mirrorless camera makers. Sony has been doing this for a lot longer than Canon, but I want to look at the two and try to ask the question, where are professionals more likely to lean, right? Which way would they go? As of right now, and maybe by the end of the year, or maybe 2021, just to kind of look at it and get an idea. What I like to always do is look at the lenses, all right? Follow the glass, as I always say. Camera manufacturers are only as good as the lenses that they have for their specific system. All right, photographers, professionals like myself, look at the glass and say, are all of the different ranges covered by that specific platform? And if it's not, we're not going to even look at it at all. All right. So to give a little context, as of right now, Sony has been producing their full frame mirrorless cameras for 7 years. They started in October, which is kind of interesting, just like it is right now, October, but 2013. All right. So we're looking at a total of 7 years that they've been making ever since their beginnings. Let's say their A7 was announced. Whereas Canon also October came out, but it came out in 2018, I believe. So you're looking at 2 years for Canon and 7 years for Sony. So you would think that Canon would have a lot less RF lenses than Sony would have G Master lenses. Now, if you don't know, G Master lenses are the lenses that are professional grade. Every bit as good as Canon L glass or Nikon or whatever, really, really good glass. They call them G Master glass. So we're looking at G Master glass in comparison to RF glass. Now, I want to start out by saying that most photographers like myself, even non-specific photographers that have specialized interests, we are always looking for the holy trinity, as we call it, which would be like an ultra-wide, a mid-range, as well as a telephoto and professional glass, okay? And that is a non-variable f-stop lens. We're not talking about stuff that meanders all over the place from like f3 up to like, or f3.5 all the way up to like f5, 6, 6.3, whatever. None of that crap, all right? We're talking about standard lenses that have a single f-stop straight glass, period, okay? Now, just to note, Sony came out with their Trinity about a year or so after they came out with their A7, whereas Canon came out with the Holy Trinity about a year also, or maybe less than a year. So let's say twice as quick. Now, I can understand that because Canon is notorious for making a ton of glass. They have a ton of EF lenses. You can fill like this whole table with EF lenses, and I have a ton of them. But Sony does not. So as of right now, let's just say Sony has 11 G Master lenses. And let's look at their website real quick. Let me switch over. So here's their website, and here's some of their glass, and we can kind of flop through them here. You see this? Let me go and read them for you because I broke them down into the Holy Trinity, which is very important, as we always say, which is that 16 to 35 f2.8, 24 to 70 2.8, and a 70 to 200 2.8. Now, remember, those are the Holy Trinity. Those are the lenses that every photographer or every pro-am or professional photographer is going to want. Now, Sony also has other lenses after that that they've put together. Now, one of them is an additional ultra wide. That is the 12 to 24 f2.8. All right. So that's really nice. So they have, I would call it two ultra wides. You have your 16 to 35 and they have their 12 to 24, which is great. Once again, 2.8s. Now, they also have a zoom, a variable zoom. That is a 100 to 400. That is f4.5 to f5.6. Now, that is a GM lens. It is a OSS lens, which is the equivalent to IS or image stabilized. But I personally hate to call those lenses professional lenses. It is a GM lens. It is a G Master lens. But to me, anytime you have a variable f-stop, it is no longer a professional lens to me. All right. That's just my personal opinion. I'm wrong, but that's okay. All right. So let's just call it what it is. I personally don't think that's professional. Now, they also have primes that are extremely nice. They have a 24 millimeter f1.4, an 85 millimeter 1.4. They have a 100 millimeter 2.8. Now, that is an STF lens. Now, an STF lens is like that soft focus. So you get that really nice bokeh in the back of your subject, let's say. So it really looks beautiful. They also have a 135 f1.8, a 400 millimeter f2.8, and a 600 millimeter, I call it an ultra telephoto, all right, which is for that really long stuff that's out there. That is also an f4.0. So they're really covered. They have a lot of glass in a good range. They hit everything really nicely all the way to 600 millimeters, which is really good. Now, what I want to do is I want to jump over into Canon, so you get an idea of what Canon is doing. Now, for Canon, let me just scroll through this page a little bit. Here's some of the design information that they put together, and here comes the lens lineup. Now, I'm going to just flip over. We're going to get off that just for a second. Now, Canon also has that Holy Trinity. And like I said, they came out with it almost immediately after the EOS R came out. That is the 15 to 35 f2.8 IS, that is image stabilized. The 24 to 70 f2.8, once again, image stabilized. And finally, the 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8, also image stabilized. Now, we can see that there is a slight difference between the Holy Trinity from Sony and Canon. Now, while they're all f2.8s, some are image stabilized and some are not. On the Canon side, all of the Holy Trinity, right, is image stabilized, IS. Whereas in the Sony lineup, the 16 to 35 as well as the 24 to 70 are not image stabilized, whereas the 70 to 200 is. So it's something to think about. Canon is doing image stabilization on just about all of their high-end glass these days, whereas Sony is not. Where we only see image stabilization on the Sony side when it came to the 400 millimeter, the 600 millimeter, and of course on that variable 100 to 400, and finally the 70 to 200. Anything that hits about 200 millimeters or above, they throw OSS on, which is your image stabilization, and the rest they do not. So just something to think about if it is something of concern to you. Now, also, when it comes to Canon, from the Holy Trinity, they go into that variable f-stop too, which I don't really call a professional lens, even though they do. It is their 24 to 240 f4 to 6.3. Also IS, which is image stabilized. I highlight that because, like I said, I just don't feel like it is a professional piece of glass. That's just my opinion. Now, they also have their 28 to 70 f2 and a 24 up to 105 f4. Now that 24 to 105 is probably the mainstay of the majority of Canon shooters out there. Their 24 to 105 is a incredible lens, which is a reasonably priced lens. So many or most Canon shooters that are pro-am or professionals have that piece of glass. Now, moving into some primes, they have the 35 millimeter f1.8, the 50 millimeter f1.2, extremely fast, the 85 millimeter 1.2, and finally an 85 millimeter 1.2 DS, which is like Sony's soft focus. All right. So if you want to get those crazy, beautiful backgrounds, you're shooting a lot of portraiture, that's probably an awesome piece of glass to pick up, that 85 millimeter f1.2 DS. So we're looking at 11 GM lenses or G Master lenses for Sony and only 10, one less, for Canon. Now that is as of today, which is October 2020. Well, guys, things are supposed to change completely before the end of 2020. What this said is that Canon will be coming out with 16, that's right, 16 new RF lenses. Now, what these lenses are this: a TSR, which is a tilt shift 14 millimeter f4, a TSR tilt shift 24 millimeter f3.5, a 10 to 24 f4, a 14 to 35 f4, that is IS, image stabilized, a 24 millimeter f1.8, once again, image stabilized, macro lens, that's an STM lens, a 35 millimeter f1.2, a 100 millimeter macro 2.8, image stabilized, a 135 millimeter 1.4, a 100 to 400 millimeter f 5.6 to 7.1, a 400 millimeter 2.8 image stabilized, 500 millimeter f4 image stabilized, 600 millimeter f4 image stabilized, 800 millimeter f5.6 image stabilized, and a 1200 millimeter f8 image stabilized. So, looking at this list, you're seeing a major disparity now between Sony and Canon when it comes to full-frame mirrorless glass or professional glass. Let's call it the G Master versus the RF professional version, their L glass. So before the end of 2020, that's only a couple of months away, we're going to see Sony most likely sitting with 11 pieces of G Master glass, where Canon will have 24 pieces of high-end RF glass. A major disparity. You're looking 2 to 1, more than double the amount of glass. Now, I think that is a major concern, in my personal opinion, for Sony. Now, Canon always does this. When they come out with a platform, most of the time, if it's a platform that they're going to keep, they throw glass at it, just hand over fist. They don't even know what to do with themselves. Just glass and glass and glass, okay? Because they're a glass maker. They make lenses, and they do it well, all right? Especially their L glass is really good stuff. Expensive, but really good stuff. Now, where I think that we have to look at this a little bit different is that my original question was, for professionals, would they be more likely to go with a Sony full-frame mirrorless camera or a Canon now full-frame mirrorless camera? Now remember, Sony's been around for 7 years, Canon's been around for 2. But we're looking at Canon doubling the amount of lenses that Sony has come up with in 7 years in 2. So it is a major disparity when it comes to glass. Now, the thing that I would have to say that we'd have to look at, now this is not being biased in any way. As a professional shooter, as a professional photographer, all right, I look at what lenses are available for me to shoot with. Now, why is that the case? Well, depending on what I'm shooting, I might need something that is extremely specialized. Now, a perfect example is Sony ends their lineup at 600 millimeters, which is, it's got some reach to it for sure. All right. 600 millimeters. Whereas now Canon is showing a 600, 800, 1200 millimeter. That is a major disparity. You're looking at double the reach. The thing is like a telescope. Now, who's going to use it? Once again, professionals that are specialists. A 1200 millimeter lens is going to be used by like a birder or a National Geographic photographer or a sports shooter that's on the sidelines, okay, of a game of some kind, football, baseball, whatever. 1200 millimeters is just awesome for that. And that's what people are going to use it for. The other lenses that really stand out that make me say, is the tilt shift. Now, many manufacturers out there have been asked to put out tilt shift lenses because there's a lot of people that shoot industrial stuff, outdoor, like let's say real estate work, buildings, stuff that they need to be able to square things up in camera and not later on push it digitally in post-production. So to do that, you need a tilt shift lens. So literally before the end of the year, according to rumors, we're looking at a tilt shift, or actually 2 tilt shift lenses being put out by Canon for their R lineup. That is the TSR 14mm f4 and the TSR 24mm f3.5. So once again, we're looking at extreme range all the way up to 1200mm, and we're looking at 2 tilt shift lenses. If I was a professional photographer, as I am, but new, and I'm getting into the biz, and I am a specialist of some kind, let's say I am a sports shooter, there is no way that I would go with a Sony that only takes me up to 600mm, and then I have to use like a teleconverter or something on there, when I can get just a straight 1200mm from Canon on a mirrorless camera also. That is if I want to go mirrorless. There's a lot of professionals out there that are still shooting DSLR and they don't look at changing their gear anytime soon. Why? Because these extremely long telephoto pieces of glass are expensive. You're looking at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for a piece of glass. And then to convert from DSLR and get another $30,000, $40,000 piece of glass for an R mirrorless camera, there has to be a lot of value, a lot of ROI, a lot of return on investment to do so. And if they don't see it, they're not going to do it. But what I'm saying is the new photographers, the pro-ams that are reaching to be a pro, the pros that are reaching into a specialized type of shooting, sports shooting where you're really, really far away, any type of sports shooting, birding, National Geographic, stuff that you really need to have that reach on a full frame mirrorless camera. Canon is providing it, whereas Sony is not yet providing it after 7 years. Once again, 7 years for Sony, 2 years for Canon when it comes to their full frame mirrorless. So that is a big disparity because they know professionals or up and coming professionals base their purchase of the camera body or the system on the lenses that are currently available. The Holy Trinity is available on both, and both cameras have a great lineup of lenses. The difference between the two is specialty glass, whereas Sony really doesn't have it, that long range telephoto, and they do not have that tilt shift that Canon will very soon. So my question to you is, if you're a Sony shooter right now and you're a professional, would you like to see Sony come out with a 800 or 1200 millimeter telephoto G Master lens? Or would you like to see them come out with a tilt shift lens, 1, 2, or more? Is that something that you'd be interested in? Or is the lenses that are currently available from Sony good enough for what you do? Also, if you are a Canon shooter, are you excited about seeing that their RF lens is just expanding by 16 pieces of glass in the next couple of months? Also, do tilt shift interest you, or that extreme distance, that long telephoto, ultra telephoto? Do they interest you? And does it make you happy that Canon will be providing it? And final question, to anyone that does not shoot either Canon or Sony and is on the fence and looking to purchase a camera system, does this sway you one way or another? Does glass sway your decision one way or another? Or do you look at the camera body first and glass second? How do you stand in the mix? So guys, a little bit of questioning, a little bit of information when it comes to these lenses that are being created that will be coming out before the end of the year. and some questions. I really would like to hear from you. I want to know your thoughts. So if you enjoyed this content even a little bit, please give it a thumbs up. That would be absolutely so helpful. I would really appreciate that a lot. Also, subscribe to the channel. And if you're already subscribed to the channel, click this little bell icon over here. So when I come out with new content, you will be notified immediately of it. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That would be awesome. Also, don't forget to pick up some merch. Down below, underneath all my videos, I have a lot of life after Adobe, cutting the cord, a lot of camera type of shirts and caps and all kinds of stuff. Go check it out. The season is coming. There's the holidays right around the corner. Pick something up. Support the channel. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.